A lavender candle flickered on the nightstand. It sent a calm blanket in the quiet room. The world outside was sleeping. My world was about to shatter. The screen of my phone lit up, a single text message glowing in the dark. It wasn't a hello or a good night. It was a few cold, sharp words from someone I thought was my best friend, Maya. My breath hitched. My fingers trembled as they held the phone. I read the words again and again. I can't be friends anymore. A pause. My mind scrambled, trying to make sense of the 5 words that had just unraveled everything. I need some space. Another pause. The silence in the room felt heavy, suffocating. The flame of the lavender candle seemed to shrink, as if it too was holding its breath. It's not you, it's me. That old line, the cliché, it tasted like a lie, a bitter pill I couldn't swallow. My whole body felt numb. This wasn't some silly fight. This was a complete blackout. No phone call, no face-to-face chat, just a text, sent in the dead of night to erase years of memories. But the worst part, this wasn't the first time I had been quietly erased. It had happened before, years ago, with someone else, in a different town, a different life. It was a pattern, a cruel, repeating joke that left me in the dark with no explanation, just a ghost of a friendship. This time, however, felt different. It felt connected, like a thread pulling me back into a past I thought I had escaped, a past I never told Maya about. My mind replayed all the little things, the tiny choices I made day after day. A new pair of sneakers? Nah, my old ones still had some life in them. I'd just wear them with the holes in the soles. My little sister, Sarah, wanted a new dress for a party. I found a great one at a thrift store in Oakland, California. It looked brand new. Saving a few bucks here and there was my secret superpower. I'd walk past a shoe store on my way home from the cafe where I worked in Berkeley, and I'd just keep walking. Didn't even look in the window. That money wasn't for me. It was for us, for our future. I'd see my friends with the latest phones, the coolest jackets, and I just smiled. My own happiness could wait, and I saved. Every spare dime. I had a big mason jar on my dresser with a little homemade label on it. It said Paris Fund. The letters were smudged and faded, but the dream was as clear as day. We were going to go to Disneyland Paris, the whole family, me, my mom, my dad, and Sarah. It was our big trip, our great adventure. My dad used to drink his coffee out of a big chipped mug. It was his favourite. He called it his lucky mug. Even after he left, I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. It sat on the counter, a silent reminder of all the mornings we had planned together. And in the back of my closet, I kept a little box of old postcards and souvenirs. Things from a different time, a different life. A tiny plastic Eiffel Tower from my mom's trip years ago. A little button that said New York City. I wanted to add our own memories to that box. I poured all my hopes into that Paris jar. Every dollar bill, every $5 bill, every $10 bill. I dreamed of us, all 4 of us, standing under the sparkly lights of the Eiffel Tower, laughing and taking pictures. I imagined the looks on my family's faces, the joy of a perfect trip. And yet, while I was cutting corners to make their dream possible, they were already making plans to leave me behind. And the new friends they were making, they weren't strangers. They were from that other life, the one I had tried to run from. My gut told me they knew about the past. My past, the one I never talked about. And now they were all in on some secret that I was just starting to see. The kitchen table was my command center. Maps of Paris were spread out like giant puzzles. I had brochures from every hotel, every museum, every place we could possibly go. I'd stay up way past my bedtime, flashlight in hand, just studying. Where was the best place to get a croissant? What was the fastest way to get to the Eiffel Tower? My son, Leo, and his wife, Clara, would often find me like this when they came over for their Sunday dinner. I'd cut out little pictures of the Louvre and Disneyland Paris, pasting them into a scrapbook. I could already see their faces. My 2 grandkids, Lily and Max. I pictured them holding Mickey Mouse's hand. I could hear their squeals of delight. I imagined Lily in a little princess dress, and Max wearing a knight's helmet, waving a plastic sword. The idea of seeing their pure, joyful smiles in a new city. It was everything. All the sacrifices were for that, for them. But during those Sunday dinners, something felt off. I'd talk about the trip with so much excitement, and Clara would just give a small, tight-lipped smile. I'd ask her a question like, "Clara, do you think the kids would like the boat tour on the Seine River?" And she'd just say, "Maybe," and go back to her phone. It was little things, a certain way she'd look at me, or the way she'd go quiet when I brought up the trip. I would find myself just staring at her, trying to figure out if I had said something wrong. But she would just look away, she would just stare at the wall. I remembered one time I asked her if she thought it would be a good idea for us all to take a cooking class in Paris, learn how to make a real French meal. She had just picked up her fork, pushed a pea around on her plate, and changed the subject. She started talking about a new show she was watching. It felt like a little wall was going up between us, brick by brick. At the time, I brushed it off as stress. I figured she was busy with her job in Boston and the kids' school. I just thought maybe she's just tired. I didn't realize those little silences were warnings. Warnings of a storm that was about to hit. And it wasn't just my dream they were leaving behind. They were leaving me. And the person they were really going to Paris with, it was someone from my past. The very person who was behind that text message. The person who had erased me once before. Before you move on, a quick question. Have you ever been pushed aside or had a dream quietly stolen from you? If you have, you know how alone it feels. Don't let me be another person who gets left behind. Subscribe right now so you don't miss what happens next. I laid my open suitcase on the floor of my bedroom in Brooklyn, New York. It was the night before our big trip. I was still so excited. My mind was already there, walking along the streets of Paris, smelling the fresh bread, hearing the chatter in French. I started packing. Not just clothes, but little pieces of our memories. I folded a yellow sweater, one I'd worn on a chilly day at Central Park with the kids. I had a small, silly keychain of the Statue of Liberty that Max had given me. I gently placed it in a side pocket of the suitcase. I packed a small notebook and a pen, ready to write down every single detail of our adventure. Each item I touched was filled with a happy memory and a dream for more. I put in a pair of comfortable walking shoes I'd been saving, and a scarf too, just in case the air got a little crisp. Everything was ready. The Paris fun jar was almost full, and my heart felt full too. This was it, the culmination of all my hard work and sacrifices. Then my phone buzzed. It lit up the dark room. The screen showed a message from my son, Leo. I smiled, thinking it would be a "can't wait to see you" text. But it wasn't. The message was from a new number. It said, "The trip is off. We're going with Clara's mom instead." Just like that. No explanation, no apology, just gone, like the friend from before. Quietly. Erased. They had boarded the plane in their minds already. Without me. They were already walking the streets of Paris, going to the Eiffel Tower, eating croissants. All of it was happening in their heads, and I wasn't there. I wasn't even a thought. The sacrifices I had made, the dreams I had saved up, the future I had imagined with them, it was all a lie, a big, cruel joke. But what they didn't know was that I still had one final card to play. The person who had texted me, who had erased me from this trip and from my life years ago, was about to find out that I knew who they were. And I knew the real reason they had come back into my life. The game wasn't over. It had just begun, and this time I was ready. "You're still here? You're not going to abandon me like they did, are you? It only takes a second to subscribe and show you're on my side. Don't be like them. They thought they had it all figured out. They thought they could just cut me out, leave me with a broken heart and a pile of brochures. But I had a secret. That Paris fun jar, that was just for show. The real money was in a special savings account. And that account was in my name, mine alone. My son, Leo, and his wife, Clara, didn't have access to it. It was my rainy day fund, and honey, it was pouring. I sat at my computer, the screen a cold blue light in the dark room. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness this time. From a quiet, steady fire growing inside me. My fingers typed my username, my password. The little spinning circle on the screen seemed to take forever to load. My heart was pounding like a drum. I found the account with the money, the one that had all my savings in it. I saw the big number on the screen, a number that meant a trip, a number that meant a dream. My cursor, a tiny white arrow, hovered over an option I'd never noticed before. Freeze account. I read the words. It would block all transactions. No one could take money out. No one could put money in. It would just stop. I thought about the trip to Paris. I thought about the text message. I thought about the years of sacrifices. I took a deep breath. My finger, steady and sure, moved the mouse. I clicked. Silence. The screen went black for a second, then a message appeared. Account frozen. You're all set. It felt like the entire world just stopped spinning. The money, the dreams, the plans, all of it was safe, locked away, like a treasure hidden from thieves. My heart felt calm. The power was back in my hands. They thought they left me behind, stranded in my little apartment in Queens. But in that moment, I left them stranded at the gate, with no way to pay for their flights, no money for the hotels, nothing. They were about to learn that you don't just erase someone's life without a cost. They thought I was the one with nothing, but they were the ones who were about to have nothing at all. And the best part? The person from my past, who was supposed to be joining them, was about to be just as surprised as they were. Don't you want to see them get what they deserve? Don't leave me hanging. The only way to know the end of the story is to subscribe. If you don't subscribe, what are you afraid of? My phone started to blow up. The screen lit up every few seconds with new messages and missed calls. Leo, Clara, Leo again. They must have been at the airport, wondering what was going on, wondering why their credit cards weren't working, wondering why their plane tickets were suddenly useless. They were probably in a panic, trying to figure it all out. I just watched the messages come in, the names flashing on my screen, over and over again. I didn't answer, not a single call, not a single text. I let it ring and buzz. It was a new sound for me, the sound of their worry, the sound of my power. And in the silence of my apartment in Queens, that sound was music. Instead of answering, my mind went back to all the times I was the one left out. The time in middle school when my so-called best friend Sarah suddenly stopped talking to me without a reason. The time my dad left. The time I was told my ideas for a school project were too much and they used someone else's instead. I saw it all now, a pattern, a story of me being quietly pushed out, left in the cold, while everyone else moved on. I remembered every time I had been taken for granted, every time I was told to calm down or don't be so sensitive. I had a million of these moments. They all came flooding back, and I had always just let it happen. I had always just accepted my role. I had always been the one who was left behind. I sat there, the phone finally quiet. The lavender candle on my nightstand was burning low, the flame a tiny dancing light in the dark. It was a mirror of my old self, a little bit of light trying to stay alive in a big, empty space. But I wasn't that person anymore. The fear was gone. The hurt was still there, but it was different. It was clean, and now I knew what I had to do. And that night, as I stared at the flickering candle, I realized this betrayal wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new story, a story where I was the main character, a story where I would finally stop being the one who was erased. The old friendships and family ties were broken, but I had something else. I had a name from my past, a secret that connected all these moments, the real villain. I had a name, and now I had a plan, and they were about to find out. I was coming for them. The phone stopped buzzing. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful. I logged back onto my computer, the same screen that had held the power to stop their trip. This time, my fingers typed a different kind of search. It was time to start over. You've watched this far, and now you know my pain. Don't be another person who watches someone's downfall and walks away. Subscribe. Show you care. I wasn't going to Paris alone. I couldn't. Instead, I booked a trip for two. Not for me and them, but for me and someone who really understood what I was going through. Someone who also had been left behind. My old friend Maya, who had also been quietly erased from the circle. She had reached out to me months ago, and I had been too busy with my own family drama to notice her pain. I booked flights to London, then a train to the little towns in the English countryside. The lavender candle was still flickering on my nightstand. The Paris fun jar was still full on my dresser. But now it wasn't about a place. It was about a feeling. It was about getting back what I had lost. I sent a simple text to Maya. How about a trip to London? My treat. Her response was instant, a single word. Yes. Months later, we sat in a little cafe in Notting Hill in London. The sun was shining on us. Our laughter echoed in the cafes where I was supposed to sit alone. We talked about everything. We didn't talk about them. We talked about us. The forgotten women. The ones who had been told they weren't good enough and were left behind. But we weren't forgotten anymore. We were there. This wasn't fight back. This was something better. It was reclaiming a dream that had been stolen. It was taking back my own life. I took a sip of my tea, looking at Maya, and she smiled at me. That was all the family I needed. They taught me family can betray you, but I taught myself. That betrayal doesn't define me. Only the strength to rise again does. And for those of you who made it this far and are still not subscribed, I have to ask, why? What did I do to make you abandon me? If you won't subscribe, at least be brave enough to tell me why in the comments